Hello to everyone. In this case brief today, I'll be talking about one of the most famous trials in American legal history, the state of Tennessee versus John Thomas Scopes, better known as the Scopes Monkey Trial of 1925. This case wasn't just about a biology teacher violating some state law. It symbolized a much larger national debate between science and religion, between modernism versus traditionalism, and just how far the state could go in controlling education. We know in the 1920s, the theory of evolution, just 40 years old, introduced by Charles Darwin, had become widely discussed and controversial. In response, many U.S. states passed laws to restrict its teachings. In 1925, Tennessee enacted the Butler Act, making it illegal to teach any theory that denies the divine creation of man as it was taught in the Bible, and specifically forbidding the teaching that humans evolved from some lower form of animal, like a monkey. Enter John Scopes, a 24-year-old high school science teacher in Dayton, Tennessee. He was persuaded by civic and business leaders, with the support from the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, to deliberately challenge this law and make it a test case. So Scopes agreed, and he admitted publicly that he had briefly taught evolution from a state-approved textbook. Well, Scopes was indicted for violating the Butler Act. The key legal issue was simple. Did the state of Tennessee violate Scopes' constitutional rights by prohibiting the teaching of evolution in public schools? Or we could look at it like this. Can the state dictate what teachers may or may not teach about science and human origins based on religious beliefs? We move to the trial, which is known at that time as the trial of the century. It began in July of 1925 and drew national media attention. It was staged like some spectacle. Reporters, radio broadcasts, and crowds filled the small town of Dayton. That was the goal of the business and civic leaders that urged Mr. Scopes to do this. Two of the nation's most famous figures faced off. William Jennings Bryan, a three-time presidential candidate, represented the prosecution. He defended the law as protecting the faith and the moral foundation of society. Clarence Darrow, a legendary defense attorney, and he was agnostic. He represented Scopes in the ACLU. He argued for academic freedom and the separation of church and state. After 8 days of the trial, the jury took just 9 minutes to convict John Scopes. He was fined $100, about $1,600 in today's money. But the Tennessee Supreme Court later overturned the conviction on a technicality. The judge, not the jury, had set the fine. Most importantly, though, we need to remember that the Butler Act itself remained in effect until 1967, over 40 years. Teachers could not teach the theory of evolution during those 40 years due to the Butler Act. So, even though Scopes lost the case, the trial had enormous cultural and legal significance. First, it sparked a national debate about the role of religion in public education, one that still continues today. Second, it just showed how fast public opinion can shift faster than the law. While the verdict upheld the ban of not teaching evolution, the trial made anti-evolution laws seem outdated and unenforceable. And finally, it set the stage for later Supreme Court rulings like Epperson versus Arkansas in 1968, which banned similar laws prohibiting the teaching of evolution under the First Amendment's Establishment Clause. The Scopes trial wasn't just about one teacher. It was about the American identity in a modern age. It forced people to ask, can faith and science coexist in education? So in the end, Scopes wasn't merely a courtroom battle. It was a turning point, a cultural turning point. It started a conversation of how we think about academic freedom, religious liberty, freedom of speech, and the boundaries of the law and learning in our public schools. Thank you.